welcome to the answer writing program. Today we will be discussing 3 questions. 2 questions on these topics which are from IR, that is GS2, groupings and agreement and important international institutions, and 1 question would be from current affair. So let's take an overview of these 3 questions. First question is India and Australia bilateral relations, areas of cooperation and some challenges in their relation. Second question is related to humanitarian aid and disaster relief measures and its relation with the diplomatic capital of any country. The third question is from current affair and it is asking about the requirement to transition from fossil fuel based economy to the renewable energy. Let's start with the first question. India and Australia are 2 important partners in the Indo-Pacific and cooperate closely in the wide range of sectors. Examine the areas of cooperation and potential challenges that exist between the 2 nations. So, the question is already setting some context that these 2 countries are important partners in Indo-Pacific. Then, the question is asking the areas of cooperation and some challenges. So, these 2 would be the 2 main headings of the body. Means we have to deal with these 2 demands in the body part of the answer. Then finally we will conclude. So let's see what we can write in intro. We can introduce with some recent context that India and Australia have elevated their bilateral ties from strategic partnership to the comprehensive strategic partnership. If you will write this only, then also your introduction is a good introduction, because the question is asking that their relations are getting elevated. So, if you will tell about any of the agreement or any elevation in the partnership, so that would be the good intro. Next you can write some background that why these relations are getting enhanced or strengthened. So, you can write that in the recent times, India and Australia have significantly strengthened their bilateral relations. And this was mainly driven by their shared commitments to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Why? Because China influence and its Chinese rising presence in the Indo-Pacific region is there, and so is the challenges posed by it. So, to counter the Chinese influence or to make that region stable, secured and open for all, then India and Australia are working now in a collaborative manner to make that region stable, secured and open for all. So, that is why they are working in a collaboration, and that's why their bilateral relations are also getting strengthened. So, now they are working in across the various sectors in economy, cooperation, energy, clean energy, space, science and tech. So, this is some background of Indo-Australia relations. Let's move to the body. The first part is we have to write the areas of cooperation, that where in what domains these 2 countries are working. First one is strategic and security cooperation. In this, we know about Quad alliance. So, India along with Australia and 2 other countries, they have made the security alliance, security forum. Now it is also getting transformed to the trade bloc. Next and this Quad is for open and free Indo-Pacific region, also inclusive Indo-Pacific, that it should be for everyone, for all the countries. Then it is for the regional security as well, and also to build the rule based order in Indo-Pacific region. So, this Quad alliance is there. Under this strategic and security cooperation, marine or maritime cooperation is also there. In maritime cooperation, we host naval exercise or defense exercises, like with Australia, we host Malabar exercises. So, these are some areas of cooperation when strategic and security domains are concerned. Next comes the economic ties or the economic cooperation. So recently, both the countries have signed the free trade agreement. This has suddenly reduced the taxes or the duties on the exports and the imports of the other country, that is India and Australia. And also, these countries like India is aiming to boost the bilateral trade from $30 billion, which is in 2022, to approximately $100 billion till 2030. So this way, they are aiming to enhance or deepen their economic ties. Next comes is energy security. Australia has the largest lithium reserves or the lithium producer. 50% of the total lithium produced across the world is in Australia. So, India has signed critical mineral investment partnership with Australia. So that because all the economies across the globe, they are transitioning from the fossil fuel based economy to the renewable sources. So, in this transition, we require critical mineral and strategic minerals. So, lithium is one of that. That is, we are using lithium in the automobile sector. So, it will enhance our energy security. Next is International Solar Alliance for the deployment of the solar technological advanced technology for the deployment of these things. Then comes India and Australia have agreed on the nuclear fuel agreement. Next comes is the people to people ties. Australia has approximately 8 lakhs Indians. So this way we have the Indian diaspora in Australia. Next comes is education. We have mutual recognition of educational qualification. Means both the countries recognize the degrees of the other countries in their domestic countries. Then space and technology. Australia has supported India in Gaganyaan mission. Then international collaboration. Means these two countries support each other on the international forums also. Like they have the one voice against terrorism because Australia is also suffering from the terrorist attacks. So this way, these are some reasons or the domains where the cooperation we can see. Next comes the challenges in the Indo-Australia relations. First is, we have come across some instances where there are the violence on the Indian diaspora or the attacks on the Hindu temples by some Khalistan supporters. Next is the differentiated stand on Russian invasion on Ukraine. As a part of the Quad alliance, everybody was thinking to take a stand, like thinking that India would take a stand against Russia. But India denied to take a stand individually, like with respect to Russia or Ukraine. So these reasons may hamper the India-Australia relationships. So these are some challenges. Next comes the way forward or conclusion. So what we can do to enhance or to deepen the bilateral ties? We can come across some other engagements like diplomatic engagements. We can collaborate more on the space technology, on the science and tech or the cleaner energy because every economy is transitioning from the fossil fuel to renewable sources of energy. So we can use the different supply chain or we can use the each others complement each others. So this way we are concluding our answer. Let's take a look on the model answer. Starting, India and Australia have some commonalities like vibrant democracy. Already they have a strong ties in trade, energy, education, science and tech, etc. Areas of cooperation, we have economic cooperation, strategic cooperation, energy, education, science and tech and people to people. There are some challenges. Then we are coming to the way forward that we should involve into the more active diplomatic engagement. We should more collaborate in science and tech, in space. We should be enhancing our economic competitiveness and we should focus on the common interest of each other country. So this was our first question. Now let's see the second question. Successful humanitarian aid and disaster relief automatically feed into diplomatic capital. So again, this is some context set that HADR results into diplomatic capital. Then in this context, How do successful HADR efforts contribute to building diplomatic capital for a country? So we have to write how. And explicitly this question is asking that we have to quote some examples. So this is the major demand of the question. Let's start with the intro. In intro, you can write the definition of what is diplomatic capital. Let's understand what is diplomatic capital. And the definition should consist of what is diplomatic capital, how this can be built, and what are the results or the consequences or the positive implications of building the diplomatic capital. So what is diplomatic capital? The capital which is built through or gained from the diplomatic efforts. What is this capital? The trust, global influence, the goodwill. So these capital when generated or built through the diplomatic efforts of the long period of time. So this is diplomatic capital. How this can be built? Via successful diplomacy, via humanitarian aid, via enhanced or deepened economic partnerships, or via doing some contributions at international forums. Now what this results into? This is the representation of how that country's credibility and reputation is in the eyes of the global community or the international community. So this is diplomatic capital. Or you can take the context that in the recent times, Samanvay exercise was conducted along with ASEAN countries to show the capabilities of both the regions. To showcase the capabilities, defense capabilities or the disaster relief capabilities. So this way you can start the introduction. Let's come to the body part. HADR efforts contribution in the improving diplomatic relations. How HADR improves the diplomatic capital or builds the diplomatic capital. So when any country provides the humanitarian aid and the disaster relief support or the assistance during the emergency time, how it builds the diplomatic capital? Our body is this, our demand of the question is this. So by taking the lead role during the emergency times, like India, it takes the leadership role in the emergencies in the neighborhood, and India has earned the label of first responder. This is diplomatic capital only, that everybody trusts India that this is the leader of our region. Next comes when any country helps the other country in the times of disaster, people generate the positive perception of that particular country and it builds the good reputation among those affected population and in the international community by providing the effective and the timely assistance. Next comes is the enhanced regional influence. When by exhibiting this leadership role, any country can stand up for the other country's support, means it is creating the regional influence in maintaining the regional security and regional stability. And when any country support in the tough times or the difficult time, obviously after some time, the bilateral ties also get strengthened up. And also increased cooperation in the various other domains as well. So these way, the diplomatic capital can be generated. Now the next thing is we have to elaborate with the suitable examples. So either you can write with these points only wherever and whenever possible, or you can make a different heading, that examples of the India's successful HADR efforts. Like in the case of COVID, India presented its role as the pharmacy capital in the world. It provided medical aid, also the food assistance to the countries across the world, major to the global south. it presented its role as the voice of global south. Then in tsunami, when tsunami hit the Indian Ocean region, in Singapore, Indonesia and various other countries were severely hit by the tsunami, then India provided the HADR support to these countries. Later on, these countries have a strengthened diplomatic and economic ties with India. Then Turkey earthquake. Instead of like uneven relations in this recent time with the Turkey, but when Turkey hit with the earthquake in 2023, India provide the HADR efforts or the HADR support. Then next is when Taliban took control over the Afghanistan and there were the humanitarian crisis over there, then India provided the food assistance over there. Then next is Fukushima nuclear disaster. When in Japan this disaster happened, India again supported Japan, and later on this has resulted into the enhanced economic and the diplomatic ties. Like now Japan is providing very minimal interest rate loans for the bullet train and western dedicated freight corridor. So this way we have also tell that how diplomatic capital enhances the cooperation in the various other sectors as well, like the economic ties and the other major diplomatic ties and also the strategic ties. So this way the body is completed. Now let's come to the conclusion. We can write various other measures via which we can increase the efficiency or the capabilities of the HADR support to the other countries. Like we need to enhance the HADR capabilities, we need to involve the private players so as to reduce the operational cost. Next is the capacity building of the disaster management personnels and also the volunteers. Then we need to build the strategic ties with the regional powers or the regional forums so as to enhance the capabilities of the HADR efforts. So this way we are completing with the second question. Let's see the model answer. Just starting with some Samanvay exercise, ASEAN counterparts, it's a recent context. Then you are writing about the how understanding HADR, positive image, regional influence, economic and the social activities, then examples, then way forward. Finally concluding in a one line. So this way we have completed the second answer. Now let's come to the third answer. Achieving a sustainable transition to renewable energy resources requires not only technological advancements but also the policy innovation. This question is asking that yes, we need to transition from the fossil fuel based economy to the renewable, but this transition requires the technological advancements as well as policy advancements. So these arguments we have to write. And the keyword is discuss. So we have to discuss in what technology and what are the different policy measures we can take. So let's start with the answer. First, in introduction, you can write something about the current status of renewable energy so that we can tell that yes, we need this transition. Like now India stands at the 4th position globally at renewable energy installed capacity. Or you can at the first instance tell that why at the first place there is a need for this transition. You can give some data or some like case study. Like by 2030, India will override the European Union to be the 3rd largest energy consumer in the world. So, to fulfill the energy requirement of the increasing population and the increasing energy demands of the increasing population and also to combat the climate change, we need this transition from the fossil fuel to renewable energy. So this way you can introduce your answer. So let's see the body. In body, we have to tell about the technological advancements as well as the policy innovations. But the question is also asking that the sustainable transition is also required. So this is the implicit demand of the question that at the first place why there is a need to do this transition. So we can make the first heading in our body part this also, that the need of transition from fossil to renewable. So we need to put some arguments for that why we need that transition. The first one is for energy security. Why energy security? Because now the recent or the present or the current demands are fulfilled maximum by the imports. We import coal, we import crude oil. So our energy demands fulfillment is dependent on the imports. But what if there are the supply side inflation, supply side shock, or the supply chain disruptions is there, or due to any geopolitical interventions at the global scale? So this creates the impacts on the energy security of our country, that is India. So to be secured for our energy needs, we need to diversify our resources, or we need to be secured domestically only. So that is why we need this transition from the import dependency and to move to the renewable sources. Next is combating climate change. The burning of the fossil fuel releases the greenhouse gases. And the greenhouse gases is the very basic and the very major reason of this climate change. So to combat and to mitigate the climate change impact, we need to reduce this burning. Next comes is the pollution and the health hazard. Burning of these fossil fuels emits the gases like sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, and this has a contribution to the health problem, respiratory, and the several other problems to the human being also. So to reduce this thing, we need the transition. Next comes, what are the technological advancements requirement? As we are moving from the fossil fuel to the renewable means the solar energy, wind energy, thermal, hydro, nuclear. So it means we have to increase the efficiency of all these energy sources also. Like we need to advance the technologies in the solar cell so that it grasps more sunlight and it produces more electricity. Next come is we need to change or enhance the wind turbine designs so as they can cater to the low wind speeds also. Next come is we need the advanced technologies to harness the tidal energy, ocean energy and geothermal energy. So these are some renewable energies. Next is the green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is also a renewable source of energy. How we get it? We get it from water. So we need this fuel. This happens with the help of electrolysis process. And this requires electricity for this conversion to happen. So this electricity comes from renewable sources only like solar, wind, etc. So this electricity at first place, this technology of using electricity from this and in using this, it is not very apt now and it is very it is not very cost effective. It is very highly expensive. So we need to work on this aspect. We need to improve or advance or enhance the technologies in this area. So next comes is energy storage. Like we are using the lithium batteries now. Also the same concept is hydrogen fuel cell technology. We have to import the lithium from the other countries because it's not naturally found in India. But we have ample hydrogen because we have ample water. So we can do this. But to store this or to make the batteries of hydrogen fuel cell, again we need the highly advanced technologies. So energy storage is the issue now. We have to enhance the technologies in this domain. Next comes the second part, policy innovations. What are the policies required to promote this renewable energy usage? First is we need to make the policies to promote the green transport. Like in India, we already have the FAME, ethanol blending programs are there. Next is we need to diversify and to enhance the funding aspects like the Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund and the Green Bonds to raise the money from the international and the domestic funds. Next comes is the collaboration. Niti Aayog and the Department of the Heavy Industries can collaborate and to make the tailor-made policies for the states. Like every state has some USP, like the Odisha can be used can be used as a hub for the cell manufacturing. West Bengal can be used for the battery assemblage, and the Maharashtra can be used as IT sector and for the research and development of the EV cells. So this way we can use the cooperative methods or the collaborative methods. Next comes the conclusion. In the conclusion, we can write some governmental initiatives like the Global Biofuel Alliance is there, International Solar Alliance is there, and the Green Developmental Pact. It means these are some initiatives or the schemes which are in the right direction by the government also to make the transition from the fossil fuel to the renewable energy. So this way the third question is also completed. Now let's see the model answer. In the model answer, it is telling about the status and also that increasing population demand. So we need to transit from the fossil fuel to the renewable energy. Then comes the need for transitioning and for the energy security to combat climate change, pollution, etc. Then there is the technological advancements, why we need this and what are the technological advancements that are required, and the next is policy innovations. So we have almost everything completed. In the last conclusion, the answer is telling that the Global Biofuel Alliance and the International Solar Alliance and the Green Developmental Pacts are steps in the right direction to achieve net zero emission by 2070. So this way we have completed the third answer also. So that is it. Thank you and have a nice day.